on the NewsChannel 5 network. This is OpenLine.
Hello everyone, welcome to OpenLine. Good show tonight. There is some good news and some bad news we want to talk about. The good news, more high school kids are making the decision to go to college. The bad news, fewer are graduating. Why is that happening? That's what we want to talk about tonight. We want to hear from you. If you have some idea why that might be happening, certainly want to hear from you. But happy to have with us two people who have worked on a study about this very issue. We have Bob Obrahta, did I say that right? Bob Obrahta, the Executive Director of the Tennessee College Access and Success Network. Thank you for being here. And Jennifer Hill, Nashville Education Foundation. Thank you for being here. So Bob, let's start first. Tennessee College Access and Success Network. What is that?
So we're a nonprofit organization that was founded out of the Race to the Top grant that Tennessee received. And our mission is to help Tennesseans make it to college and be successful and receive degrees. And that covers the entire state. We work with all populations, so it's not just young people. We also work with adults, but we do a lot of professional development training for school counselors and teachers, as well as nonprofit organizations that are doing access and success work.
So your goal is to get more people into secondary education.
Right. And through.
And through.
Yes.
And so there's a report that just came out. Mm-hmm. And what was the goal of the report? And I'll ask you, what was the goal of it?
We really wanted to understand what opportunities that MNPS graduates were able to pursue, and in those pursuits, what obstacles they encountered, and then what success looked like, and how we might be able to replicate that for other students who are not experiencing that same success.
How unprecedented was it to do this, to actually look at these issues, come up with this data?
I would like to give Bob's team a lot of credit. We were able to aggregate a lot of data sources that aren't typically connected. So we've connected K-12 data to Tennessee, to higher education data, and really got a comprehensive look at where kids were, what their intentions were, and where they were falling through the gaps throughout the funnel on that way to getting that certification or degree.
And we have an opportunity. I really do want to delve into the report. I mean, it's fascinating stuff, but I think I kind of gave the briefest of overviews. I mean, the good news is more kids want to go to college. Right. There's more chance than ever for secondary education, whether it be vocational or four-year college. But for whatever reason, fewer and fewer are actually attaining that degree. I guess 6 years out is the measure. Right. And so what stands out in what you found?
Like you just mentioned, I think one of the things that was very optimistic about the report was that 80% of students who are seniors in a class of Metro School students are taking steps to enroll in some form of post-secondary education, whether that's a technical certification program or a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree. They're making some effort. So whether it's filling out an application or a financial aid form, that's very impressive. And then what we see happen immediately, though, is over the summertime we have something that we call summer melt, where a number of those students who began the process all of a sudden fall off, and about 24% of the students in Metro schools fall off throughout the summertime. So you end up with a group of about 61% of the students going to college. That's the college going rate for Metro Nashville Public Schools. That's where we're at.
I think that's an interesting term, summer melt. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing a huge number of kids saying, okay, I want to go to college, and then just in that first, 2-3 months of summer, they're not even going.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess what are some of the reasons that you found for that, and why is that happening?
Well, a lot of our students in Metro, particularly some of the increases that we're seeing, are students who are going for the first time. So they may not be familiar with the processes and know what to expect when they are moving through from high school into those early months of college. And they're largely disconnected from some of the people who have guided them through that process. Counselors are not necessarily available. They may not know how to utilize college resources yet because it's an unfamiliar place for them to be. A lot of things happen during the summer as well. There's family circumstances that can be a very small upfront tuition cost that they weren't expecting. They were thinking a scholarship might cover. So it's all different kinds of things like that.
Right. One of the biggest ones that we see is that given the population of Metro schools, you have a large number of students who are coming from low-income family backgrounds. And the financial aid form is a very complex form, and even if you fill it out and you correctly filled it out, sometimes that's not the end of the story. You still have to do something called what's called verification, which is where the federal government is asking for additional information to prove that what you put on the form is correct. And if you're a low-income student and you're receiving a Pell Grant, for example, what happens, a Pell Grant is free money that comes from the federal government. Anybody who is receiving Pell Grant funds is typically selected for verification. So we have a large number of students who over the summertime need to be providing tax return information and other types of forms to the colleges that they've applied to, and they don't understand that that process has been put into place, and so a lot of the times those forms fall off.
Under Governor Haslam, we have something called Tennessee Promise. And what impact has that had? It has to be positive, right? What have we seen with Tennessee Promise?
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one of the greatest attributes that Tennessee Promise has given us is that rise in college-going intention. So people see college as an opportunity, something that is within reach, that may not have been in their portfolio of plans. And so that's been a really positive thing that Tennessee Promise has provided to our students, and we're definitely seeing that.
One of the biggest spikes that we've seen is in FAFSA completion rates. The state of Tennessee is actually the top state in the nation in terms of completion of FAFSA.
And what is FAFSA?
The free application for federal student aid. It is the way that you apply for federal and state aid. A lot of times also the institutional aid. So in order to get any of the federal grant money or the state grant money like Hope scholarships or Tennessee Student Assistance Aid, you have to have filled out the FAFSA. So we have the highest FAFSA completion rate in the country.
And the essence of Tennessee Promise is it won't cost money, right? And so that would get kids talking like, well, I can afford it. I guess an initial barrier would have been, my parents didn't go to college, they couldn't afford it, I can't afford it. So at least now there's this promise out there that it won't cost, right? And that gets kids thinking.
Right.
It does.
And that's positive.
Right.
But what you're finding is there are some other barriers,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tennessee Promise is tuition dollars. And we know of those of us who have been fortunate enough to go down the college journey that there's a lot of expenses that are not covered by that. Living expenses, books, other types of fees, indirect costs that are related to college going that are not covered by Tennessee Promise. And that's proven to be a barrier for some of our students.
Right. I mean, the one thing to remember, especially like for young people now that are going to college for the first time, is it's not like when any of us went to college, right? The costs have just exploded over the last 20, 30 years. It's just gone up and up and up, and other types of aid have not been able to keep pace. So the value of a Pell Grant, for example, when I went to school, it was over 50% of the cost of higher education, and now it's under a third. And so you have this gap in funding a lot of times, and those are the expenses like books and transportation costs, room and board, all of those things that are obviously going up and up and up as well. Those are the types of financial barriers that a lot of students are facing right now.
So even through Tennessee Promise, the tuition's covered,
Right.
but there may be a barrier when it comes to transportation.
Correct.
Or there may be a barrier. I don't understand everything about Tennessee Promise or know everything about Tennessee Promise. I don't know if they cover books and that kind of thing.
No, they don't.
So there are. So even though tuition is covered, you would think, okay, we've got this. There's still these barriers.
Right. An accounting book today for like an intro accounting class is like $350.
Which is somewhat absurd.
Right.
I mean, that's disturbing.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, back when I was in school, $350 would have covered my entire semester's worth of books, right? So we're only talking one book. So there is this gap in funding, and students have to figure out ways to come up with those resources. And most students are working, right? I mean, you hear the story about when I was in school. I worked, and that's how I made my way through college. Well, most students are working full time. About 90% of the students who are at Nashville State are working over 30 hours a week. And so, you add 30 hours a week of work plus trying to take on a full course schedule, And it's pretty heavy in terms of number of hours a week that they're having to commit. And if anything goes wrong, it doesn't take much for something to go wrong. A battery can go out in a car, and all of a sudden you cannot make it to work, and you cannot make it to your classes, and you don't have the $100 or so that you might need for a battery.
So what do we do? So we've already reached out to the point now, so tuition is free.
Right.
But we see these other barriers.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What are the answers? How do we get beyond that? How do we deal with those issues?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Bob alluded to the fact we have about 25% of MMPS graduates who are going to Nashville State. So I think that's a great opportunity to look and see about how we can support our students who are attending college, starting college there, or going back to college in that opportunity. There's a brand new leadership that has just come in place at the beginning of July. And so there's a great opportunity to think about how we can weave some network of support, bringing in our metro government, bringing in our nonprofit communities to provide services that have been successful in isolated pockets in Nashville, but also across the country, and supporting students as they make these.
At least we identified those are areas.
Right.
It helps us deal with them.
Right.
And what you said, I mean, in the report, it says more students go to Nashville State than MTSU and TSU combined.
Right.
So they're going to Nashville State,
Right.
and they're going to other community colleges.
Right. Volunteer State is the other one that students are going to. So about 37% of all students in a graduating class will attend a community college, either Volunteer State or Nashville State. 1% of the students right now are attending a local Tennessee College of Applied Technology, what we call TCAT, where a student can go and get a certification. So, like in HVAC, an HVAC repair or automotive repair, it's a very small number for various reasons. But yeah, for the most part, our community colleges are the backbone for the workforce that we have here.
All right, so this kind of sets the table. I think it's very interesting and a real chance for us on a rainy night to kind of delve into some of these issues that are barriers for people that have every intention of getting a college degree, going to college, but far too many are not succeeding. And so this kind of sets the table. I want to hear from you. Do you have some thought about this, why it's happening? Are you a friend of someone? Or are you yourself encountering some barrier? Give us a call. There's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 737-7587. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.